Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
Hey guys, what's up? Amir Reiter here. I am with Luke, the CEO of Baremetrics. Luke, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, Amir. Good, mate. Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, the software demo review series where we kind of break things down into service listings that are specific to jobs to be done and industries, and just kind of getting people the information they need to make the right decisions. Yeah, I'll jump right into it, right? So let's talk a little bit about Baremetrics and just the advanced Stripe dashboards for founders that need enhanced analytics. And maybe you can chime in to tell us before you do the demo and show us maybe what alternatives customers are using before, if any.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what we generally find is two different types of customers that start their journey with Baremetrics. One, they're either frustrated with their current provider because they can't get particular reports or custom insights they need, or Stripe in and of itself is not sufficient for them to start really driving those customer insights. So getting deep into their customer segments, understanding what portion of their ICP is driving revenue growth, why clients are leaving them, why are they churning, and then probably more importantly, the drill down into that Stripe data that actually gives you actionable insights versus just cursory MRR. The other thing we find is accuracy from Stripe, the ability to see which customers are actually paying you versus having active subscriptions that aren't producing revenue. There's a few nuances to the way Stripe categorizes active subscriptions and customers, and we try and overcome that to give you a real picture of your revenue. The second fundamental platform that is everyone's competitor, I believe, is Excel/Google Sheets. Everyone starts off on that. Everyone is comfortable with that generally, but you start to get to a size and complexity where a error in a single cell can ruin the entire sheet, right?
Sure.
So you need to find somewhere that can be your source of truth, that can be your easily manageable dashboard tool, and actually give you some, again, deeper insights and more manageable data.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially to me, because I tried demoing new software because I experienced that same pain point. But essentially, if I hear you correctly, before you guys, founders, leaders, revenue leaders, CFOs or CEOs of founders, right, of SaaS companies are typically using either spreadsheets or Stripe's dashboard. But as everybody knows, Stripe is a billing engine, right? So while their dashboards and analytics are good, considering that that's not the product that they're offering you, what you guys do is you take that and you make it more actionable and readily available so that leaders can make decisions, especially based around revenue and customer success, right? And kind of tying together, as you mentioned, I remember LTV, ACV, right? Also helping resecure clients when their billing fails, right? I don't want to do the demo for you, but you did an awesome job showing me everything. But maybe you can just show us the key features that your software helps when they overcome the challenge of just either having spreadsheets in which one cell is off and the whole model breaks, or just having limitations in Stripe.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess from a fundamental perspective as well, Stripe, you're right, dwells in that billing space. They look to be continually expanding their strength in around that space. They give consideration to some revenue dashboards, but what you really need the ability to do is manipulate those dashboards that give you relevant and actionable insights. So I always say to a lot of customers that come through, Stripe is your question and Baremetrics is the so what, right? It's like, I've got all this data. I've got this revenue data coming in. I can see something. So what? Baremetrics allows you to find that so what, right? This cohort is under retention. This cohort is...
Who are our best clients? So,
exactly,
who is staying the longest? Who's growing the most, right? Which is why I contacted you, right? I think that was some information that I was getting ready to get my eyes on. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And did you want me to just jump straight into present and jump into the
that would be great. That would be great. Yeah.
And I guess for all your viewers as well, this is all available publicly. Our demo domain is open for anyone who wants to jump in and do it. So Let me.
That's how I saw you guys, but I wasn't there. It was somewhere. It was on one of your plans,
exactly.
but
yeah. Okay, there we go. So you should be able to see the demo environment now.
I sure can.
There we go. So what you're seeing here is the heads up display, the control center, the beating heart of Baremetrics. I've just got this set to a particular customer segment to give you an example of what it can do. But the control center here, completely customizable, gives you all of your heads up data on your core revenue metrics. What I've got this set to here is just a regional dashboard. So we've been able to segment out those American customers, those Canadian customers, UK, wherever you have your customer base distributed from. You can use, again, the data in Stripe to split them out and find relevant insights as to how that's going to affect your overall business. The dashboards here you can see in the demo environment give you the ability to switch between certain segments that are already built in the back end. And what this does is it builds those custom dashboards out for you to see them in real time and update over here on the right-hand side, the breakdown and the live stream. These actually update before Stripe even does. So when Stripe conducts a payment event, it takes time to actually sync into the customer files and render, whereas we actually receive the event as it occurs and then update your live stream over here. You're able to adjust that timeline out to wherever you want to, whether it's this year, whether it's all time from the very first Stripe transaction you may have had. You can change whatever you like over here. The control center in and of itself is your heads up MRR display. These are all your core metrics that any SaaS user and other subscription sort of tools should be looking at. This just represents the heads up. What we really want to drive is those insights. And so we're going to head over to our deep metrics tab over here. This gives you that list of all available metrics that you can start to dig into and the subsequent breakdowns you see over here. Now, if you remember, Amir, I mentioned the control center, we had those regional dashboards or the regional segments. That's the segmentation over here. So in this segmentation, again, we've broken down our customer base into relevant and actionable segments that actually mean something as opposed to my overall MRR. And so what you see in here is the ability to then add those segments to any of these custom metrics and build out actionable insights. The way we do that is via our customers tab over here. So the customers tab is bringing in all that Stripe data. We're bringing in any other attribution data, any other attributes of your customers that you want, right, to enrich these individual customer files. And inside here, we can now see the timeline of those customers. We can see all of these attributes. So tying all this together.
And you mentioned you guys use Purebit to enrich it, right? And I think,
Correct.
For my conversation, I'm having memories now of your amazing demo that you gave me. And to me, to tie this into our revenue leaders, right? By being able to actually enrich the clients, you also get to kind of check and make sure that your buyer personas that you perceive are your best clients are in fact your best clients, right? So a lot of times companies are building playbooks on their buyer personas, right? But this allows leaders and CROs to also now check, hey, was our expectation that these people would find our software the best, more valuable? Well, it actually looks, now that we see the data, it might be that we might want to put more attention to this buyer persona because what we thought is actually they're not growing and they're canceling. In this section right here, we should give more attention. So in a way, is it safe to say that some of these insights can help with marketing alignment to just really find out who their best customers are versus who we think they are? Is that how you can use it, or
it validates the ICP in many ways, right? Because if you're conducting an outbound campaign and you've already cultivated this ICP that you believe represents the most value, and they come in here and you start to see once you create these segments that actually the company size that we were going after, that revenue band of companies, that SMB versus enterprise effort that we made isn't actually playing out. But I think the most important thing here to remember as well is we spoke about this LTV and retention over time. When you come down to things like these retention tables and you can apply those segments to these tables over time, you now start to break down those ICPs and how long they're actually staying with us. So is this a fly-by-night product that bodes well for the first 3 months, but unfortunately after those first 3 months, we start to see a dramatic drop in revenue, right? So there's retention tables, and this is a demo environment, so the segments aren't available here, but in your own environment, you can absolutely segment these tables out by those individual customer segments. And what that allows you to do is to look at this and say, okay, a lot of people don't really understand how to read retention tables, and they see it as a nice to have or a request from investors. But what this shows you is that from all of that revenue that was gained in the first month, how much of it has stayed with you over time? How much of that has expanded over time? So we now can see that we might have a really high clip of new customers, but half of them churn out by month 3. Okay, why was that? Well, we were running a promotion that was 3 months free or 3 months at a discount, and then they churned. So obviously the value wasn't there post-discount. It may well be that your value metric or your usage metric isn't well aligned because they did all they needed to do in the first 3 months and they moved off. You might see that with some AI tools that are working on tokens, right? Or a certain amount of usage. That drives 2 things. One, it tells you why they're churning or asks you to dig into why they're churning. And the second part of that is, well, maybe my pricing model isn't efficient to extend the LTV of that particular cohort. Do I need to switch from monthly to annual? How do I incentivize longer subscriptions with a better value metric, right? So this is where I really think segments shine, is in something like a retention table.
I agree with you. In fact, it's kind of interesting because I'm almost seeing a use case for Baremetrics for what I ultimately want to do with our marketplace is I want to be able to match buyers based on LTV, knowing that like this client came in, bought Baremetrics and lasted for 10 years, so I could recommend, right? And it's to me, I'm getting these ideas where this is the information that I want to build so that I can tell people what technologies, agencies, or people are the right for their job gap. And so it's interesting because I could see us using Baremetrics for our own financial numbers, but also for actually taking the data of who's buying what, who's lasting a long time, right? And giving that information to the recommendation engine that we're building so people can buy the right products, right? So there's like a use case in the use case in the use case, right? So my head's always,
and this is the thing. I mean, you asked me at the start to sort of define, give that tagline for what Baremetrics is. And we talk about Stripe as our core ICP, but these emerging ICPs that come out are those that want to either share their metrics with others. You mentioned open startups and B2B. I can show that briefly as well. We've also seen investors and VCs and PEs come to us and say, hey, I want to monitor the health of multiple companies because we have this core set of metrics that everyone should be following. How do we do that? So we've been working with those sort of agencies as well to give sort of greater visibility into consistent, repeatable, and trusted metrics, right? That's what it really comes down to, being able to have the same understanding across all parties. And just one thing I know we spoke about briefly on our previous call too, Amir, but one thing I love about Baremetrics compared to, say, a Stripe, this annotate function here. So more often than not, when you're presenting your data, you're going to present it to a team, a hierarchy, an external third party, investors. And the questions are going to be asked on trends over time. So we're going to look at this and say, well, what was this giant jump here? Like what happened here, right? And if you can't answer that question, then it sort of leaves you hanging in that conversation, and it doesn't really give those third parties much trust or that you've got a handle on what's going on in your business. Here we can actually annotate. So at this point in time, I may well have left a note here that said increased marketing budget by 5K or started new backlinking campaign. Whatever that might be, I'm going to annotate that.
And went to 5 dinners, right? Yeah.
Right. We attended the SaaS conference, whatever it is. Yeah. But you notate this on the graph and you get this in a habit of updating the graphs as it occurs. And what we then see is those annotations then hang over all of these individual metrics. So how did that particular annotation or point in time affect our LTV, right? Did it have an impact? Did it increase our ASP at the same time as our MRR jumped? You can now see that annotation over all those graphs and understand the outcome of your actions, not just doing something for the sake of it. You're doing it, you're monitoring it over time.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense because like you said before, then it's obviously visible for you and the team, visible for investors, and you don't really get caught up because you know how to answer. This bump was because we had a free promotion for 3 months, and they all 75% of them stuck with it, and we got a huge jump. Makes sense.
Yeah, Exactly. Yeah. So being able to answer those questions when you see that volatility, whether it's over weeks, whether it's on particular days, or whether it's over months, you can actually see that and how it levels out over time. And I guess the most important thing I often advise to founders when they're looking at graphs like this, it's very easy to get drilled in on one data point. But when you're looking at graphs like this, where you can see trends over time, that's probably the most important thing, right? Nothing happens overnight. So the ability to pull a growth lever, whether you're focusing on new, churn, contraction, etc., and then see how it actually manifests over time is important. I think you and I both know that SEO, as an example, any improvement you try and make to SEO health has a long tail effect. It's never overnight. It's never immediate. And more often than not, we are at the mercy of a Google algorithm update any given time.
Yeah.
But depending on how quickly those changes are processed and indexed, then you start to see long tail effects. So it's important to view anything as a trend over time, as opposed to one point in time in particular. So another big difference for us and Stripe is being able to elongate that data view, see trends over time, and then action those trends.
I want to bring up, you see what's different than us and Stripe, right? Like I don't see you guys as being different. I see you guys as being the Ferrari, the dashboard that feeds from Stripe, right? And maybe that's the wrong perspective to see it. Stripe was always meant to be the billing engine. You're not a billing engine. You're a financial information engine, right? So it's a best of breed product sitting on a best of breed product. That's my view, right?
Absolutely. There's no way. There's no world in which we replace Stripe. We fundamentally need Stripe. We are the ultimate complement to your Stripe data. Yeah.
Sure, I was kind of listening to this. I actually asked Luke for a demo just because for my own needs. And his demo is so good that I remember the whole thing. I could even do. I almost wanted to do the demo for the collection part where if somebody cancels, you automatically could send emails right through the system that get people to reset up their credit card, which is to me is part of customer success and retention, right?
Yeah.
And then also you're able to do surveys and collect information on why they canceled, right, on a fly, right? So it's more than just reporting. It also has the ability to kind of actually give you insights to understand not only why did you have revenue spikes and revenue declines, but also what you can do from a product perspective to kind of avoid those. And also at the same time, if people pay credit card in case their credit card just expired, right? So
this component here of the platform, fundamentally different from Stripe, fundamentally different to most of the near peer competitors in our space. Recover is probably the most undersung element of our offering, and it is only relevant for those that are capturing emails on the front end. So it only works with certain few platforms, but where you have emails, where you have delinquencies, failed credit card payments, and overdue amounts, this is the most powerful tool you're ever going to engage with. And you can see here what we actually offer is this recovery rate over time. How many delinquent payments have you been able to recover? This is revenue you otherwise wouldn't have. This is revenue that's going to go to delinquency.
I just want to add, right? Like this module to your product, there's a whole industry for collections. Right? It's a $1 billion industry, right?
Yeah.
So why would you want to work with multiple vendors where, okay, get your collection, now you got to go to a vendor company. It's you want to collect money when the money comes in and when the transactions fail. And this, you even said right in the beginning that the signals you're getting are even faster than Stripe knows, right? Stripe takes time to update. If the transaction failed right away. And the speed at which you go to collect that payment or overcome that objection as to why they canceled can be the difference between a 50% recovery rate on $2 million and 50% recovery rate of $2 million is going to be $1 million of ARR. That could be $10 million of valuation that could have been lost.
Absolutely. And you're right in saying that most of the competitors in this space are standalone products, dunning tools, doing their own thing. More and more people are looking for an all-in-one solution, and you're only paying for what you use. And that's what Recover offers alongside Baremetrics. And the fundamental thing here, the difference is moving between the settings. We can see how easy it is to customize that content. More often than not, I find founders are hesitant to chase accounts receivable because they don't want to come across as pushy. But there's also an element of being able to talk to clients in a way that is still collegiate in a way, like, hey, Amir, I know you've been a little bit overdue. Do you need some flexibility with invoicing terms versus, hey, Amir, you're overdue now? Yeah, right. And so being able to customize these emails and use custom fields in here to be, a little bit softly at the start, but then maybe by the time we get down to 30 days after delinquent, it's like, hey, pay me, right? Like you're well overdue now. You're at risk of losing access to the app, etc. That's again the biggest difference. Getting in front of annual renewals is a big one. They can often slide through the cracks if you're very much a high monthly subscription base, and getting in front of people before their credit cards expire. Actually looking at their credit card, going, hey, Amir, just so you know, yeah, your credit card's about to expire. Let's make sure we don't have a failed payment. Let's get in front of that and open up those conversations. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Having it rolled in, the fact that it has a money back guarantee as well, the recovered amount of revenue will cover your subscription.
For us, if we end up using your software, which is quite a possibility, a lot of the times, we're an all-in-one marketplace, right? We're coming together candidates, but when I talk with candidates, which are freelancers, if their payments are late, it's a big deal, especially in different countries, right? So they could quit, right? Like someone's credit card, they don't get their payment on time, they might quit. They might be great. So I'm also seeing that it's a really good tool to make sure that obviously that not only you get your payment on time, but also the pass through gets on time, right? From my perspective, right? And I don't want to be selfish, but obviously I'm looking at this through the lens of a SaaS owner, through a marketplace owner, and so we're going to probably do a lot of times because there's so much in this product that it's going to be there's a lot more to do. So I know you are the demo master, and why I call you the demo master is because it's hard to get me to shut up. And I think I listened to you for a whole hour and nodded. So it made me happy. But talk to me about like the tasks and deliverables or people involved in setting up the software. Do people need to hire an agency, a new employee for it? Can they do it themselves? One time, what does that look like? Right.
No, it's as simple as signing up and connecting your Stripe. So, let me stop screen sharing so we can talk a bit closer. But essentially, there's no real requirement for any dev work. It's as simple as having access to your Stripe, to your payment provider, being able to access the key, API key, and then load it in and sync. The one friction point we do find is, so founders, no worries. They've got a handle on all of their accounts, their Stripe accounts, etc. Sometimes you might get given the task to go assess the market for Revit analytics tools, subscription analytics tools. You're going in there and you realize that maybe you don't have permissions to access the Stripe key, the Charge B, the Apple, whatever. So there's a friction point there, making sure you have adequate access to those dashboards to be able to connect, making sure that your clients understand that you're about to engage with a new data processor and that they're comfortable that that's what's happening. But apart from that, it is single click. We've actually done some work recently to speed up that connection and sync of your data. The time taken between connection and having fully rendered dashboards depends on essentially the age of your business. How long have you been in operation for, and how much data are we importing to give you those long tail insights? But it's from a couple of minutes to no longer than an hour or so for companies that started in 2016.
So unlike Oracle, Zora, NetSuite, it's not going to cost you $400,000 and $500 an hour for consultants to never get it done. I've sold NetSuite for people who are like, I want to go off spreadsheets. They bought $500,000 worth of NetSuite. They studied on spreadsheets. So they're not in our marketplace, by the way. So they wouldn't even care. So I can say that. So so it's basically a faster, cheaper, more efficient enterprise version of analytics. And I like it because I see teams getting smaller, right? Less complex, right? And a CRO should be able to almost act like a CFO in the sense where if the data is there, they should make real-time decisions without this slow. And like you said before, changes happen over time, right? And if you don't see the information that is changing over time fast enough, the change takes time too, right? So you're able to also make decisions faster, which makes you nimble, right? So talk to me a little bit about KPIs. Like, what would your ideal customer use to evaluate success with your software for the use case that we discussed? And obviously this could just be, faster, cheaper, more efficient, but let me know what they did in Mentor.
Yeah, the constant struggle that any SaaS company has is proving value, right? Showing value to the client and letting them know that the money they're spending on that subscription is actually worth something. For me, the KPI of Baremetrics is probably how much you use it, because it's easy enough to have graphs and dashboards, but again, it's this so what? Like, what are you actually doing with that? And you mentioned Adam Robinson, RB2B. He often posts on LinkedIn around his churn rate that he's in. And so you can see his train of consciousness essentially say, we identified that after the immediate launch, we were seeing I think it's like 26% churn rate. That is not sustainable, because we know that that churn rate and our current cash burn will end up with a zero bank balance in X months, right? That's the kind of the links you make. And so at that point in time, you've been utilizing your churn dashboards against your new user acquisition, your active subscriptions, and some accounting data to show that your burn rate and cash balance is unsustainable. So again, it's I've got a churn dashboard. So what? Well, it indicates that my churn is tediously high and untenable. So what? Well, we need to do a sprint or a strategic goal based around reducing churn and increasing LTV. That's the line you start to draw.
So they measure the success of your product by being able to see data quickly and make business decisions.
Correct.
Right?
Like it's the live data as it occurs.
Can we get these kind of tools to the federal government so that they can make better decisions with interest rates before lagging and,
You'd like to think so, right? Well, this is where we talk about sort of like crystal balling. And I guess the way we're moving in the product at the moment, and this is one component I didn't necessarily get to jump into, but I'll touch on it briefly, in that the ability to combine current revenue data with future revenue data. This is where we talk about moving from Stripe into future. This is the tool for the non-financial CEO, right? You don't want to hire a CFO. You're not in a position to have fractional CFO services yet. All this does is brings in your operating model from your QuickBooks to your Xero and allows you to model out future scenarios, right? You change these variables in your operating model. You add a growth variable. You have a really generous growth variable at 3%, month-on-month growth, whatever it might be. But this dashboard that plays those
you're able to budget your finances, sync it with Xero or QuickBooks, two of the most commonly used systems. I use QuickBooks. And then you're able to take that information and overlay it on the actual, so you could see where you are relative to now and the future without having to be a CFO. It's true, because I can do all this stuff and I'm not a CFO. So I know it's
exactly.
True.
And in the use case we mentioned of a really high churn rate and potentially a really high CAC that aligns with that, we now see how that impacts our burn rate over time, and we know that our bank balance can't sustain it, right? So we have to go and do something about that, right? So tying all of those tools together in real time is one thing. The interesting use case you mentioned about live actionable insights as they occur. We even have some users that pivot their marketing campaigns weekly based on new user acquisition data from Baremetrics, in that they can see their attribution channels. They run multiple Google ad campaigns. They see which channel, and they have quite a high spend on Google ads. They see which Google ads are working at any given time, and they'll adjust their spend into those campaigns depending on active subscriptions and new user acquisition rate in Baremetrics. So you're talking about now moving back into the marketing space, being able to action that, as well as how much new revenue are those campaigns generating over time.
Makes sense to me. I like your product. You know I do. Think about these things. I think about demoing people's software and how people can solve their business challenges. But I also experienced some of these business challenges myself, right? Because I'm a small marketplace without CFO and I wear many hats. No, this has been awesome. We're going to do more listings, right? This is the you got a lot of products and you help different people, right? So there's always obviously the SaaS company that's a smaller company that can find the value of all these features, but then there's probably the bigger company spending $500,000 on a clunky system that's not even correct. That could probably not only they could probably save a few $100K here in cost and time, right? So you have a lot of different kind of clients that you can get. You probably know this because you got the data on these types of clients. So who am I to tell you? You probably know it pretty well, but no, I appreciate you taking the time to demo Baremetrics. Anything else to say before I let you go? Getting back to helping more people.
No, I guess just to really narrow down on that KPI you mentioned, like how did people record the value that Baremetrics gives them? Our core mission is to essentially help entrepreneurs achieve their purpose, right? And if their purpose is building something valuable, something useful, then that's great. But fundamentally, we ask the question, how can we help you grow, right? And that's the question you should be asking when you look at all these dashboards. How does this data help me grow? And the measure of success then is how well you action that data to grow, whether that's declining your churn, arresting your churn, or fundamentally growing your customer base and increasing MRR. They're the measures of success, and they're the ones that we always push. How can I help you grow? That's always the question that I want to ask, prospective founders, entrepreneurs, clients of ours for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I'm a fan. I like what you're doing. Thank you for joining this episode of the Transform Sales podcast. And anybody who wants to catch up with Luke and Baremetrics, you guys can visit his website. They're listed in our marketplace. You can also go directly to their website at baremetrics.com. And Luke, I appreciate you, dude. And I look forward to learning more about how you guys are helping leaders and revenue leaders and financial leaders, measure success and win. So thank you again for your time, man.
Yeah. Amir, thank you so much for having me. Great to chat. And thank you.